Okay. So, good morning, everybody. This is our May LTPT monthly call. So, I'm happy everyone is here. I hope everyone's having a great Thursday so far. But yes, so we'll just jump right into the agenda. As you can see, I'm sharing it on my screen. So, just to get right into it, I know we've talked about this a lot, but we're really trying to kind of advertise and really get everybody involved in the second annual Broadband Summit. We are going to have this summit in Orlando. We're hoping to have it finalized hopefully very soon with more details, but it'll be in Orlando. We're hoping to have it September 10th through the 13th. It's a great way to network, to meet more people, to really just try to get as many people involved regarding, LTPTs, ISPs, anyone who wants to learn more about broadband, anyone is invited. Um, Another topic regarding the Broadband Summit is that, of course, anyone is invited, but the LTPTs, y'all are more than welcome to submit somebody from your team or the main lead from your team to come to the summit, and the Office of Broadband will pay for you your room, but that only covers one person and it cannot be an elected official. So if y'all can get that information back to me as soon as possible, that would be great. I think last meeting I sent out an Excel sheet to all of the LTPT leads regarding, their name, phone number, email, what their title is. And I think I have about 15 responses so far. So if you didn't get that email, please let me know. I'll send it out to you. But it's just really important that we get that information as soon as possible, just because we have to create, a room block because of so many people who might be attending. And so the sooner we have that information, the better. Um, we are still working out on the agenda as well for the summit. That hopefully will be finalized as well, but that has to go through a lot of, you know, hoops and has to get authorized by a lot of people. But we're hoping that the agenda is going to be different compared to last year. We'll be talking about a lot of different things. We're trying to get, the LTPTs involved, so we're hoping to get that approved as well. Um, but for right now, that's all of the updates I really have on the Broadband Summit. But if y'all could get back to me about who will be attending for the LTPTs, that will be really, really great. And we really hope that even though we're paying for one person, y'all are able to bring additional members or try to get more people intrigued about the summit as well. So going through the agenda, I will now pass it along to Jacob, who will be talking about the capacity grant application. Um, he has a lot of knowledge. He'll be able to answer a lot of questions that y'all might have. Jacob, do you need me to stop sharing my screen so you can share anything, or am I good?
No, ma'am, you're fine.
Okay.
So, good morning, everyone. Like Aaron said, just wanted to give you guys some updates about the capacity grant application. We've got a lot of new information from the federal government, and so just gonna let you guys know everything that we know, and then at the end, I'll be happy to take some questions. So we recently got our allocation from the NTIA for the capacity grant. It's going to be for about $70 million over the course of 5 years. There is an initial tranche of funding, which is 41.7 million, and then there will be 2 additional tranches after that, which we project to be about 15 million. So our application to the NTIA is due on May 28th. So in about 2 weeks, we've been working through that. We're finalizing everything. It's all going smoothly, and we anticipate that everything there is going to go well. NTIA will begin issuing rolling awards starting August 28th. We have no way of knowing who's going to be initially awarded and when the following award dates will be. If we're in the initial awards, that's great. If not, we'll just get it a little bit later. To bring it back to what Aaron was saying about the summit, we are anticipating at the summit that we're going to do sort of an LTPT work group surrounding the capacity grant applications, so that y'all can network with each other, see what other people are doing, other people's ideas, best practices, talk to some nonprofits, people who are already engaged in this work, so that you can get some concrete ideas for your application. So that's another thing. If you're on the fence about the summit, that's something that we'll be doing, and that'll be really exciting. And I think that session will be really informative. Um, so in terms of the timeline after we get our award, we have a 9-month period after our award date where we have to report to the NTIA some of the applications that we're intending to fund. So we'll be opening the application fairly shortly after we get our award, and we'll have a webinar for y'all to answer some questions, like the way that we've done in some of our past grant programs. So be on the lookout for that. So just to get into some of the eligible activities, this is taken from the Notice of Funding Opportunity from the federal government, but eligible activities include digital literacy and skills training, e-government and civic engagement, device distribution programs, economic development, telehealth, and online accessibility. We're looking for the activities to be consistent with our digital adoption and use plan. So if you are not familiar with that document, we would ask you to give it a once over and make sure that anything you apply for is going to be consistent with what we laid out in that plan. If you have any questions or if there's anything that you're unsure about, please reach out to us. I'm happy to work with you, happy to let you know if any of your activities are eligible or ineligible. So we just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. If there's any confusion at all, just reach out. And again, we'll be doing webinars once we get more information, and we'll make sure that you have everything that you need to apply. And just to be clear, there's also some prohibited uses of funds, which are we're not going to be doing funding for admin for this grant, and funding can't be used to supplant existing funding for websites. If you're going to if you had funding to update your website for e-government or civic engagement, you can't supplant that existing funding with this funding. And then funding cannot be used for deployment. So any deployment we use is going to be for BEAD. So you can't use deployment funding for this, basically. And then just keep in mind, the competitive grant is going to come directly from the NTIA after this is concluded. So that's everything that I have at the moment. Happy to answer any questions. I saw Justin ask about the list of eligibility. I will get that to you. That's taken directly from the NOFO, but I will get you that in writing. So, like I said, that's everything I got. If anyone else has any questions, happy to do my best to answer.
Jason, this is David. About how long do you think the grant application will be open?
60 days is I think what we are shooting for. That might be changed a little bit, but I think 60 days tentatively is what we're looking at.
Yeah, and if you could send or include in the chat kind of that quick list that you went through, that'd be terrific. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Happy to do that.
Okay, if y'all don't have any more questions, then we'll move along to Sean. But thank you, Jacob, for going over that. That was very helpful. So Sean is gonna now talk about the tentative challenge process workshops.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be with everyone once again. I wanted to share with you again, we are tentatively scheduling our challenge process workshops the week of June 10th through the 14th, followed by a recorded webinar on Monday the 17th. That will be for folks who are not able to attend our workshops in person. Thank you to our LTPT partners who have offered to assist us with citing some of those workshops. That's a great help. We want to make sure that the sites that we're using are really accessible to our public and all of our stakeholders. These are going to be very, very helpful because what they will do is they will explain the entire challenge process from beginning to end, who's involved and at what levels, what the process looks like, and how to go about it. We really encourage your teams to really be involved and to bring your local stakeholders, your nonprofit partners, your local government leaders, and decision makers to all be involved in this process so that everyone understands it. The challenge process is really, really vital to BEAD being a successful program. Uh, the whole goal of BEAD is to make sure that we are able to serve every eligible location. And the only way that we can do that well is by making sure that this challenge process is really done well. So we are looking forward to everyone's engagement and partnership in that. So once again, those dates are the June 10th through the 14th, followed by the recorded webinar on the 17th. Those are tentative dates because we are still waiting on the final blessing on volume 1 of the initial proposal for BEAD, but we are told that that is forthcoming. So we are moving forward under the assumption that those dates will work. So once again, thanks for our partners who are helping us with citing those workshops. And if there are no questions on that,
Sean,
yes,
Sean.
go
Hey,
ahead.
this is Derek Lindsey from NASA. How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
When y'all have that really codified, where will you all be posting those dates? Because I know they're tentative now, but where will you all be posting them once you codify those dates?
Perfect. Our website is our most valuable asset. If you are subscribed to the Office of Broadband website, you'll get automatic notifications about when those dates are posted and the locations and times.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
That's www.floridajobs.org/broadband. So that's also very, very important, not just for the LTPT team leaders, but also for all of the membership of those teams to really be subscribed so that all of your team members really stay abreast of everything that is that's being planned, every announcement, every event, workshop, webinar. That is your best resource. So please make sure that everyone on your teams and in your community are all subscribed to the website. Thank you. Next, we are going to talk about mapping. So Bob Gitson, our mapping lead, is going to take you through that. Bob?
Thank you, Sean. As far as the county maps go, our goal is to be able for each county to select their own county through a drop-down list process, that sort of thing. Once we get our broadband hub up and running, that'll make things a lot easier. In the meantime, I will post probably today or early next week. Let's call it early next week on our public grant portal. Actually, I didn't have to wait till the end of May. Sorry about that. We're going through some software upgrades right now, and we're kind of limited in what we can share. So probably by about the 1st of June, I will have a BEAD eligibility based on geography, most likely census block groups. For those of you who are not familiar with the census geographies, it goes in order of magnitude, it goes from counties down to census tracts, which consist of census block groups, which consist of census blocks. The block group is a little easier to deal with, particularly in the more urbanized areas. And all we will show on these maps, on this block group map, is block groups that have eligible BEAD IDs in them. There's no sense showing a block group that does not have any eligible IDs in it. And it'll be based on the percentage of IDs available, but the drop down pop-up list will also indicate how many eligible locations there are in each block group. And God willing, and the creek don't rise, we'll probably put a spreadsheet out there. We can probably do it based on address. I don't know if we can share the location IDs. We're going to have to eventually share them when we get into the challenge process. So that'll be a question for our Cost Quest folks. Hopefully, the more information the counties have, the better, and the more successful challenge they can make. So that's it for mapping. Always an evolving and living thing. We are going to use Fabric version 3.2 with, I believe, the BDC collection date somewhere around mid-March of 24. So that's the most accurate and up-to-date stuff we have that we are putting into our Bead Challenge portal. Does anybody have any questions?
Bob, this is David Palmer from Polk County.
Hey, David.
Hey, will you also be supplying, or is there an easy way to get some of the broader locations, or will that automatically be included in the information that you'll be sending out later on those locations that are copper/DSL, as well as all of those locations? And I know there's a number of us out here that have a tremendous number of those that are satellite only, but are showing served on the 477 map, but are not, because they really aren't actually able to get and sustain appropriate latencies and speeds.
The only locations that we will be showing will be broadband serviceable locations that are served by copper, coaxial cable, fiber optic, licensed wireless, or licensed by rule fixed wireless. There will be no, we exclude satellite in terms of whether or not they're served.
Okay, so your list will show the copper, the coax, the fiber, and the fixed wireless. Then we need to take our local address list and location IDs and apply those to it, and then we would be able to filter out to see which ones are either unserved or underserved. Would that be a correct methodology?
Yes, that is correct. There's probably I know there's a way to do it in Python. I don't know how to do it in Python. But if you have somebody that can speak Python, they can do that for you.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All of the now on the national broadband map, particularly on the funding map, you can exclude those services when you're looking at the data on the challenge. For instance, on the FCC national broadband map, you can filter the satellite services out. I believe if you just choose all terrestrial, that excludes the satellite services.
Okay. But the maps that you guys are working on will not automatically exclude those, right?
It will not include
Okay.
satellite, and it will not include the satellite services.
Okay, good.
Those have been filtered out. So even though it on the national broadband map, it may be served by Starlink or Viasat, we do
Right.
not we do not show those. Only the five, the fiber, cable, copper, and the 2 fixed wireless.
All right. Thank you.
And David, do you guys have a Tier D license or a Tier E license? I believe Polk has one of them, or your GIS office does.
We do. We do indeed. I need to double check which license we have, but we do definitely have one or the other.
Okay, I'll be happy to share that data with you. Just for everybody out there, if you have the Tier D or E license, which if you're going to participate in the Beach Challenge process as a nonprofit, you need a Tier E Edward license. And if you are a potential subrecipient, you will need the tier D as in dog license. And I will see if I can get those links to you in the chat.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
So
Bob,
there's a
hey.
question. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
No,
somebody had
go
a
ahead, Aaron.
question.
No, go ahead, Aaron. Someone had a question.
Okay. So Eric Ross, he put in the chat, what is the expected release date of these new maps?
My goal is to get them out by the first part of next week. Probably, now that I think about it, and David brought up a good point, I can put up a county map and a block group map, hopefully, and get all the relationships right so everything is fine and you can tell who's providing what in each area.
And Bob, it just occurred to me, when you said that, will these also include or exclude, I don't know which way they'll go, for those that have already been covered under the BIP or BOP or critical infrastructure grants?
Yes, the eligible IDs are IDs locations that are not currently served by another award. They're either unserved or underserved, and they're not covered by another either BOP cycle 1, cycle 2, CPF, or any RDOF or any of the other awards.
Bob, and this may be for the larger group. Are we seeing any other areas that are being challenged with some of the RDOF not actually being worked on actively? I know that they are supposed to be doing it, but we are seeing that the focus has been on density and higher population areas rather than the RDOF. And that seems to still be getting kind of falling off.
Well, RDOF is a whole different breed of cat.
Right.
The providers or the award winners have milestones that they need to meet in terms of build out. However, those milestones are nationwide. They're not geographically specific.
Right.
So provider A may have to have 40% of their locations built out by the end of this year, but they don't have to be in Florida. They could be in Colorado, Texas, Utah, Wyoming, and Nebraska, as long as it's 40% of their total build out. As far as the defaults go, there was some defaults awarded earlier this week in, oh gosh, Wisconsin, I think had some, Missouri had some, nothing new in Florida. So Florida is still, there was a bunch of defaults announced last year, and those locations are now BEAD eligible.
This is Derek Lindsay from Nassau. How are you today?
I'm well, Derek. How are you?
Doing well. Look, when you're covering a lot of this stuff, I would recommend that once you get the maps the way they are, that we kind of hold a Bob session, you know?
Sure.
I would love to where we sit, because I think a lot of the languages and conversations there's an assumption across the county that everybody understands them, everybody knows what we're talking about. But, you know, when I talk to other people and other leaders across the county, a lot of those still are vague and trying to make that hop. So I know I would be welcome to sitting on a session with you like we are today and walk through those in more detail.
I would be happy to do that. Hopefully before the challenge process starts, we'll have everything up and ready, and we can coordinate through Aaron and set something up. And maybe it's just one of the monthly LTPT meetings where I spend a half hour going through all of this stuff, showing you what is available on the map, going over some of the terminology. I know some of it can be kind of confusing, like what is a BSL? What is an eligible location, so on and so forth. What are the different served, underserved, that kind of stuff. And I'd be happy to spend as much time as y'all need. I think the next meeting is June 20th. We should have everything rock and rolling by then. and we can set some time apart on that meeting. And if we need to do a follow-up with people later on, that's fine too.
Great, thank you.
And Bob, also getting in and validating your license and getting it if you need to do it so that you're ready to do the challenge process and understanding the maps. It
Correct.
seems fairly easy, but it tends to be a little complex. Once you get there, it's very, quick. I mean, they're doing a good job of doing the turnaround, but understanding the process is a bit of a challenge as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those gather, go, get things. You pretty much need to read what you need to have before you even try it. There's not a lot of documentation that you need. I guess the biggest one is the FRN number, which is real easy to get. I'm going to put the FAQ link in here for CostQuest licensing, and that should at least get people rolling.
That's a good idea, Bob.
And what we might want to consider, fellow LTPT members, is having kind of a maybe a roundtable or workshop of just going through the process. It would be great, Bob, if you could be a part of that. But you've got to have that in place before you can even do some of these other pieces, including the challenge. So
correct. And I don't know exactly precisely how this process is going to run. The challenges have to come from an eligible entity, which is us. They have to come from a provider, or they have to come from a license holder. John and Mary Smith, as much as they would like to, cannot submit an individual challenge. They can through the FCC broadband, national broadband map, and we can cover that at a different time. But there again, you need some pretty specific documentation for that challenge to be successful.
And I'm just requesting we get a little bit more specific around it. That's all. Take some of the vagueness out of it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's important that we empower our teams to do exactly that. So that's a great suggestion, Derek.
Anything else?
Thank you for posting that, Bob.
Anything else? Mapping. Last call for mapping.
This is Ethan Long from Alachua County. So just for the mapping, you said the 2024 data is coming out, because basically everything's based off like the summer of 23. So like all the information the ISPs had to provide of where their service locations are, the 24, is that coming out soon or?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Oh, okay.
They keep threatening to do that. However, last time I looked, it was still key to the June 30th, 23 fabric.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, the challenge will be based on fabric version 3.2, which is the June 30th of last year, and the March 24 broadband data collection.
Okay.
Here's a term: broadband data collection. What is that? The providers are obligated to send to the FCC their latest information on the level of service at each location that they service. That has to be done at least once every 6 months. Some do it more, some do it less, but there's a window during which they have to provide this data. The FCC puts it into a data format, and then you can key that data to the fabric map. So it's a little bit complicated. It's the thing you're going to be able to do at home on your Google map or anything. But that's what all of this served, underserved, unserved, DSL modification, who serves what type of technology, is all based on that broadband data collection. So that's basically the key to who gets what and where. And we're at their mercy.
Yeah.
We have no input in that data. We just use what they give us.
Yeah. For us, it's like, so the challenge process is going to be kind of odd for us because we're having so much put in right now. So it's going to be kind of odd where, there's a lot of places where they're more underserved and now they're served. So it's going to be an interesting process for us.
Well, yeah, and that's also a living, breathing document. As the providers build out, those statuses on those locations are going to change. For instance, when XYZ comes into Alachua County and completes work on their grant, they update that broadband data collection, and the location that was unserved is now served. So the idea is get everybody served at a minimum of 100 over 20. Most of the providers are doing more than that. But that's the goal.
Yep.
The reporting mechanism is probably flawed in some way, but it's the best we got.
Yep. And then if we have a tier E or D, are you able to share like the BSL point data? So like not the location, but the actual what their service is by BSL?
Yes, we can share that with you.
Okay.
And it's difficult without the broadband. Well, you can't without the broadband collection data. You cannot determine a level of service. Yeah. And unfortunately, I kind of wish the FCC would be able to allow you to download specific information from their map, but such is not the case. It'd be nice to just say, I want all this stuff for Alachua County, who's served, who's underserved, who's unserved. That would be great, but it's not the way that particular data set is set up. So
yeah, like I have everything at the block level, and I have everything, and I have BSL locations, but not. But there will be a census block where the neighborhood at the top of that census block is completely served, and then the neighborhood at the bottom of that census block is not served at all. It's completely unserved. Right. And so, but that census block looks pretty decent because even though there's a whole neighborhood that's not served at all.
Yeah, and it's odd sometimes too. You'll be looking through some of this stuff and you'll see, here's a whole bunch of served locations. Then in the middle of everything, there's one unserved. And you kind of go, what's going on with that?
Yeah, we're running into that.
But, and I think, David, you mentioned that in some of your areas in Polk County that there's unserved and underserved locations within wide areas of served locations. And that's part of what the challenge process is for. And on an individual basis, your citizens can go to the National Broadband Map and challenge through that as well.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay, with that, I'll turn it back to Erin.
Okay, thank you, Bob, for providing all that very informative information. That was really great. And I will give it back over to Sean, who's going to provide broadband program status.
Sure. Good morning again, everybody. Just wanted to give some quick updates. On the digital connectivity technology program, the award announcements for that program, that's the $13 million for the digital devices program. Those awards are forthcoming. So like I said, please make sure that you are subscribed to the website so that you see that announcement as soon as it comes out. We've talked a little bit about BEAD. BEAD will be launching either very late this year or very early into next year. I also wanted to add a couple of things that came up this morning in having conversations with an ISP. Just a reminder to all of our LTPTs, if you are aware of any deployment that's being done in your areas that is outside of what's being done in our office, please make us aware of those deployment activities so that we don't get into a situation where we are showing an area as being unserved, but there is new work being done in that area, and then we make an award. It's really, really important that we have the most accurate information about what is unserved, what areas are not being worked on. because we're starting to see some instances where there are activities going on that the office is not being made aware of. We want to make sure that we have really accurate information about what those available areas are. That is the responsibility of the ISPs, but we want to make sure that nothing gets missed, because it can really complicate our making awards, which then delays deployment to all of our citizens. So we want to make sure that we're streamlining that as much as possible. Does anybody have any other questions about any of the other programs in the office?
The original ones in the contracts, what are the status there on a lot of those with the ISPs? We know they've been awarded. We know the process is walking through, because I'm specifically waiting on trying to see when those contracts are going to be not only vetted but signed with our ISP, so we can have meetings with the LPT so we can get more specific around routes and things like that. Do you have a status on which contracts have been signed, which ones are still being vetted, that kind of process?
I think Paul Witherspoon, our Chief of Broadband Funding, is on the call. Maybe Paul can answer that.
Yeah, so we have over 70 agreements have already been executed, and the remainder are still in the pipeline at one stage or another, either back with the ISP for their signature or waiting for execution. And that includes all of those for Broadband Cycle 1 and for Capital Projects Fund. We're still vetting several in the Capital Projects Fund. As you can imagine, the world still continues to install broadband, whether or not we're putting out awards or not. So we've got several federal awards that have come in and overlapped some of those project areas. And then private investment has been building as well. So we want to make sure we've got all those to not provide funding in locations that are already funded by a private source or by another federal commitment. So we'll get through all of them by the end of June, but we have currently 70 plus that are already executed, and construction has already started. I've been on 2 site visits already, one in Holmes County and the other one in Gilchrist County, of activities that are already underway, and service is actually being provided in Gilchrist from some of the passings that we were funding. So we're moving as quickly as we can, but we want to make sure that we're as efficient and economic as we possibly can be as well. If you have a specific one that you have in mind, let me know.
I will. Okay, I'll send it to you. But also, I do ask, based on Sean's comments and your comments just then, let's be careful a little bit about, we know new activities coming in and we have grants out there, but just know, because we do live in a capitalist society, some individuals are starting to try to put network in because they know those grants are coming in, and because they know people that are getting ready to do business in their areas, or something happens. And sometimes it's not the best of intentions, it's to thwart competition. So I just want us to make sure we keep that in mind, that, yes, we're building, but what is your intent? When we had somebody that was working with a local county with an intent to build, with an intent to service, with an intent to walk through a process under agreements, beside just, oh no, leave it alone, we're laying fiber. So I just want us to keep that in mind.
So as an economist, that is first and foremost in my mind, because market share and competition is always a good thing. Keep in mind that there are limitations to these funds. We can't serve areas that are already served or being planned to be served. So we can't overbuild those locations. It's not the ideal situation, but it'll get everybody served by one provider at least. So we do try to do the best we can to not curtail building in an area because someone has planned or is already building in there. But there are statutory restrictions for us to do that. So
Totally understand. Yeah.
Nothing I can do about something that we already do the award and people decide to build afterwards. Not much I can do about that. And I would actually encourage that. But it's something like Sean said earlier, we're finding out every day that counties are making agreements with internet service providers to provide broadband service in their local areas. We don't know about it. So it's going to get overbuilt with BEAD. A
Mhm.
lot of times, if you overbuild an area that somebody has already determined is theirs, somebody's going to lose. And we don't want to spend money that's going to end up with a defaulted system because they can't have the return on investment they anticipated.
Right.
Understand.
So as you as teams become available, become aware of those things, please share that information with us. Thank you. And Aaron, that's what I've got.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sean. Next on the agenda, we will have local technology planning team reports. So if anyone has any updates, please feel free to share with them. Just, another great way for y'all to network and kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So if anyone would like to speak on it, that would be great.
Aaron, sorry, my apologies. This is David in Polk County. We have been holding town hall meetings. I'm sharing, I don't know if it shows or not, throughout our county in primarily 4 of our larger municipalities. We have a total of 17. We're doing kind of a town hall tour. It's been eye-opening to see some of the challenges of the local communities and the disconnect between what we're seeing on the maps and what we're seeing on the ground. So there is some of that. We are encouraging them to go out and do the challenge process individually, but we're also collecting the data holistically so that we can be sure that it gets reported. The other thing that is, and it kind of leads into another kind of follow back question, is with the end of the ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program, we are seeing a number of our citizens who currently are not able to experience connectivity anymore because of affordability. Will there be any provision in the BEAD or the grant capacity to address kind of that gap in ACP? Would that be something that might be considered eligible?
Hey,
I
David,
think
it's Jacob Trisham. I'll jump in on that real quick. We have some statutory guidelines, Florida statute, that we have to adhere to, and they're pretty clear that we cannot offer a subsidy. ACP was federal, so we were able to take advantage of that, but we cannot fund a state subsidy in that way. We're bound by statute. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's an answer. That's what I was looking for. When we're doing the town halls, that became a question, and I was unclear if actual connectivity at the individual level would be able to be requested for. Would there be a specific use case that you guys can think of around a group that perhaps could do a grant request and then help those individuals get funding or be funded through like I'm not using United Way as a mechanism, just as one that comes to mind, where they may be able to apply and then through theirs be able to help service some of these unserved or unserved due to affordability. Or does the answer hold? And it's okay if that's the case.
I think it would still be the same because the funds themselves would still be a subsidy. So I don't think that would be eligible either.
I agree, Sean. I don't think we can use our funds for that purpose.
Yeah.
And have you guys heard of any discussion of assistance that may be forthcoming from the federal level on that front?
I know that in Congress there are still discussions being held about alternatives, but I've not seen anything definitive. And David, to your point, in our calls with other states, we have heard of other states who were considering using some of their BEAD funding to do some type of subsidy. But even they recognize that if they do that, that these funds are time limited, so it would just end again. So they are really questioning whether it's a good decision for them to actually go forward with something like that, because it basically is just kicking the can down the road a few years.
Understood. I just thought I would ask because this is
Yeah.
it's coming up, and it's a good thing to absolutely address at this level, especially
Yeah.
at the local level.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
And
everyone's
to our surprise, these are being well attended for town halls like this. We don't usually see a large turnout. Our first one, we had 25 plus people. Last night's we had 28, not including the people that were presenting. So we're finding they're being well attended and being well received.
That's actually not surprising at all. I think people have come to realize, especially since the pandemic, that that broadband is a vital tool for every citizen of the state at this point, for their livelihoods, for education, for safety and healthcare. It really has become a vital tool. So I'm not at all surprised that folks are very much engaged, just by the volume of calls that we get here in the office from concerned individuals and groups. Yeah, I'm not at all surprised, but I'm also glad to hear.
And thank you for all you and your team do. We do appreciate it, and thank you for everything that the other LTPT leads do. It's amazing how important this is. So thank you.
We
Hey,
have
David,
great
this is,
partnerships.
sorry, Sean. David, this is Leo. Thank you again for sharing that information. And I'm glad that things are working out where folks are involved and engaged with the efforts that you're doing there locally. I wanted to ask you, how are you getting that message out for folks to know about those town hall meetings? Because just something to share for the other local planning teams that may be interested in doing something similar and getting that involvement, that word out. So if you don't mind sharing that, that'd be great.
No, don't mind at all. We are very fortunate here in Polk County that we have an active group as part of our LTPT and our overall Smart Communities initiative that includes a wide variety of not-for-profits, community anchor institutions, and this round of well-attended town halls have really been spearheaded by our local faith-based community. If I don't know if you noticed when that popped up, each one of those are being held at churches that are key in each of their communities, and we've engaged kind of the leader of our local church planning group, who has been the one to reach out to the pastors at these different churches. And then they, in turn, are getting their communities. So the variety of individuals we had last night were apartment building owners, were cosmetologists, barbers, and they have access to a whole variety of people. So we're passing out business cards, we're passing out our survey, it's saying get the word out. And it is, it's becoming exponential, but it really has been around engaging for us those faith-based groups that are really wanting to have their voice heard and hearing them and knowing that we're doing something for them, or willing to hear them and collect this information and to help them craft within their communities what are their needs, so that when we're ready to go into the BEAD and the DAU piece of this, that we're ready to put together more of a community-based ask from a grant funding rather than a piecemeal approach. So I would be remiss if I didn't say it's been a lot of fun. I was pleasantly surprised a lot of times when you're the government and not trusted and standing up in front of a group. You become the enemy and the direction, but it has not been that way at all. We've had wonderful interactions, and it's been it's been great to include everyone. So yeah, it started with that simple little flyer and engaging the churches. And we posted it on our website. The churches put it on their website. And like I said, for town hall meetings, having 25 or 30 people there is kind of, you know, for us, kind of a big deal.
Great
That's
work. Thank you for
fantastic.
sharing that.
That is really fantastic.
So I do see that Sandra has her hand raised in the chat, so she would like to ask a question or talk about her report. That would be great.
Hi there. This is Sandra Guffey in DeSoto County, and we had 2 of our new internet providers who are building out fiber locations here in DeSoto address our Board of County Commissioners. They gave 15-minute presentations, and it was very well received. The commissioners had a lot of questions, and I think it was really helpful to do this. So I just encourage you, if you have an opportunity to do that, to present to your board. One of the things that really came up was the need for training for people involved in anything to do with broadband, and that it's an opportunity, especially for community colleges, state colleges, to work towards programs as people who work in this industry are retiring, or there just aren't enough of them to meet the demands. So that was an interesting sidebar that spurred from this.
That's actually fantastic to hear, because within BEAD we do have a focus on workforce development. So I'm really glad to see that that's being recognized at the local level.
Because it takes a while to get the programs going and to get the students trained. So yeah, we need to start now.
Absolutely. Absolutely agreed.
Sandra, do you have an idea of what that curriculum looks like that you're doing for training for like digital navigators? I'm assuming that's the type of training you're looking at.
It's beyond digital navigators. It's really the people that deploy the fiber. That it's more of the hard wiring of the whole system.
Okay.
So I think it's beyond. I know Maribel Martinez is on this call, and she's the master of training digital navigators. She could address that much better than I could.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Okay, so we have Matthew, who also has his hand raised.
All right, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Matt Creedle, the Marion County LTPT head. Just want to give a quick update on what we're doing in Marion County. But before I do that, I appreciated one of the last updates, actually the last couple updates, kind of getting bits and pieces. So I'm glad the collaboration is there, hearing things. I'm taking a bunch of notes, but just a quick update from Marion County. One of the things that we're really trying to work on is some digital navigation and just some digital literacy training. We're putting together some training. We got internal county departments. Our IFIS has digital navigators on staff. They're going to do some train the trainers. We're using our library branches. One of the things about Marion County, 5th largest by land, so we got a lot of area to cover, and so we're trying to space it out around the county at different library branches or community centers and things like that. We did some pre-surveying of residents. We have one of the entities on our LTBT is Marion Senior Services, and they did some surveys of their residents back in December about what type of training they would like to see. And as a result of that, the first one that came out, we're doing on avoiding online scams and digital banking. We're also working with the ISPs in the area. I've invited the ISPs that if they offer service in or around that area to come be part of the training as well. Each of the ISPs indicated they have their own digital literacy curriculum. So we're going to try to incorporate that as well. My thought process is for the first 4 events we're doing, it's kind of a soft launch. Man, if I have 20 people show up, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need like 4 or 5 to show up first just to make sure I know what I'm doing. I would be terrified of 20. I mean, be happy terrified, but I only want like 4 or 5 to show up at the first couple just to kind of get are, get the wheels kind of rolling at that point and moving along. Hopefully we'll get to where we have, 25, 30 people showing up. That would be great, but man, I'd be terrified. And the other thing I just want to point out about Marion County is that we are like other LTPTs, looking at ways to have, partnerships and expand service to as much as possible. But we also have, Marion County does not offer service like an ISP, but one of our municipalities does, in Ocala 5 in the city of Ocala. And I know it's pretty unique to have a government entity also being an ISP. So I just want to take a chance to highlight Mel Poole with Ocala Fiber North that they do. I know he's in a pretty unique situation, and it's one of the aspects that we want to kind of highlight from our LTPT as well, is that we appreciate anyone who's offering service, but we understand that the unique entity that is Ocala Fiber. So that's kind of it from Marion County, just kind of checking in. Thanks for your time, and I appreciate all the updates from the other LTPT team leaders.
Thank you, Matt, for that update. So if there aren't any more updates, then we will adjourn the meeting. So our next meeting will be June 20th, obviously 10:30 to 12. If y'all have any questions or concerns about what we talked about in today's meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to help y'all through, the challenge process. If you have questions about the summit or any grants that you would like to see, kind of hopefully be applied for your county. But in regards of all of that, just don't hesitate to reach out to us. So with all that being said, we will see y'all in June, and thank y'all for attending the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Darren, and joining the team.